Hello everybody, it's Starraptor. Welcome to another episode of Recap of Thrones, where I break down the latest episodes of Game of Thrones while providing my speculation as well as what I liked and what I didn't like about each episode. This is for Season 7, Episode 6, titled Beyond the Wall, so let's get into the rundown. So, Jon Snow and company go beyond the wall to capture a White. Tyrion suggests Dany think about her successor. Arya and Sansa's relationship takes a turn for the worse, and Daenerys loses a child. So, getting into the positives for this episode, what I enjoyed was seeing how all the members of this little fellowship, because it reminds me of Fellowship of the Ring, about how they're all interacting. A lot of enemies, a lot of people I've never met before interacting, that have mutual friends, such as Jon Snow talking to Jorah about his father, and about Gendry talking to, the people that had taken him, captive, speaking of Beric Dondarrion and Thorismir. So it was fun getting all those little dynamics, and especially Tormund and the Hound. It was hilarious, especially when Tormund was talking about how he really liked this tall woman that ended up being Brienne of Tarth. So I really like how that was kind of slided in there. Another thing I did enjoy was seeing that last stand. That was really spectacular. It reminded me again of Lord of the Rings, the Black Gate in Return of the King, and they were just all on this hill. The ice was breaking around. It was a really, really cool set piece. I enjoyed it a hell of a lot. And, each of the characters had different kind of weapons. So it kind of reminded me of like a group in World of Warcraft or something. I mean, you have somebody with a giant hammer, somebody with this awesome two-handed sword, then you have Jorah Mormont with like these kind of sword dagger type weapons. So that was really phenomenal seeing that. Another thing I enjoyed about this episode was that shocking moment between Arya Stark and her sister Sansa Stark, and how Arya goes all crazy on Sansa for, almost having her brother Robb basically bend a knee to, at that time, it was Joffrey. So it was interesting seeing how it took a turn for the worse, and it was going into almost horror story mode. I actually really thought she was going to kill her right there. It was intense, and I could say that about the majority of this episode. Another thing that I had to put in my positives list, but I didn't necessarily like watching it, was watching Rhaegal, one of the dragons of Daenerys, die. Just seeing the expression on Dany's face and seeing how this is really one of her children. She mentions that earlier in the episode when she was talking to Tyrion. She can't have children, so these dragons represent her babies, and just seeing one of her babies die in front of her when she was helpless was just absolutely oh man, it shook me to the core. And well, speaking of that said dragon, wow, an undead dragon is coming to Game of Thrones. I don't know why I never even thought of this being a possibility, but the first thing that comes to mind is Skaragosa from World of Warcraft, the Wrath of the Lich King, I think the dragon, the Lich King's own personal dragon. So we'll see if it turns blue like that. That'd be pretty cool. Okay, switching things over to my negatives, because this was not a perfect episode by any stretch of the imagination. It was kind of uneven. There were moments that kind of just plodded and dragged along with the conversation, with the dialogue. Something else I want to nitpick was the fact that the White they captured, how was that thing still, together? Because they killed the White Walker, and it seemed like every single other White just collapses, but this one's somehow still standing out. That just seems way too convenient, how this last one just didn't die with the White Walker. And the whole dragon reveal was not even surprising, because it was super predictable. They kind of hinted at it way too heavily, and really, who else is going to save them? It was still a badass moment, don't get me wrong, but it was not anything that really, I didn't expect. Okay, so moving over to my speculation. First off, I want to correct myself. I mentioned earlier that Rhaegal was a dragon that died. I was wrong. It was actually Viserion, and this leads me into my speculation. I think Viserion will be the key for the White Walkers to branch out into the Northern Realm. I think Viserion is going to melt the wall. It just seems so likely that they're going to use that dragon to get past the wall. They're not going to use the Horn of Juramonger, which was the mythological means to break down the wall, supposedly. They were going to use a dragon. It just makes perfect sense. Another thing I want to mention, after seeing Jon Snow kicking so much ass in this episode, I can't help but wonder, this guy's got to be Azor High. This is basically the terminology of the Lord of the Light's prodigious figure that is going to stand up with this light sword and just take out all the White Walkers. It's got to be him. I was very actually surprised not to see all of a sudden this epiphany where he becomes Azor Ahai. So yeah, that's probably going to happen. They were alluding to this with Melisandre, and when she was mentioning Daenerys. Hey, maybe there's actually two Azor Ahais. We do not know yet. And finally, I think that there's going to be a standoff, another one at least, where Arya Stark is going to try to kill Sansa for real, and then Brienne of Tarth is going to step in to protect Sansa, and we're going to get that duel we've been waiting for, of an actual duel between Arya and Brienne. It's going to make it very interesting because it's going to be almost like they both know each other's weaknesses and strengths since they're sparring partners now. So that could happen. It's very likely to happen, and I really hope we see it. Moving over into my quote of the episode, this is with Jon Snow asking Beric Dondarrion, "So what are you fighting for?" And he says, "Life. Death is the enemy. The first enemy and the last." And I have to give that to Beric Dondarrion for this week's episode because he is one of my favorite minor characters in all of Game of Thrones. He's just this badass character that has died 6 times and he just comes back to life. And well, unfortunately, his good buddy is no longer with us. So next time he dies, he's going to stay dead. But I think Beric Dondarrion, he is one of those characters that has so much foresight into the world, and he really makes sure that, it's the undead. These are the things we have to look forward to killing, and he has the right idea. We're not going to try to, have this petty squabble over who's going to rule the kingdom when there's going to be nothing to rule it over. So I really like that character a lot, and I really hope he stays around for another couple episodes. So that is going to do it for this week's episode of Recap of Thrones. This is for Season 7, Episode 6, titled Beyond the Wall. Now it's time for you guys to talk to me. What did you like about this episode? Do you agree with some of my speculations? What do you think might happen in the season finale next week? I can't believe it's next week already, and then we have to wait who knows how long for Season 8, the final season of Game of Thrones. So if you are new to the channel, I want to welcome you. I have plenty of other content. I just recently uploaded my review of Marvel's The Defenders Season 1, so make sure you check that out. But I also have tons of Star Wars content as well as other movie and TV content. So if you like this video, if that stuff sounds good to you, please make sure you subscribe so you're notified in the future of that content and it helps support me. I want to thank you guys for watching, and bye-bye. So, did you like the video? Then make sure you rate it a thumbs up, and if you did that, go over there, hit that star after head so you subscribe to my channel. Doing so will keep you up to speed on all of my latest content, speaking of which you can see a couple of my recent uploads down below. I'm also on social media, so what are you waiting for? Let's start nerding out!